Hello and welcome to the Advent of Code 2021, Day 8, Part 1. Today we are giving a very strange problem. Essentially, we have a list of patterns in this form, and every pattern is formed by two parts. The first one has 10 strings containing the letters between A and G included, and the second part has 4 of those strings in to describe a number. So, to describe 4 numbers. So, every letter of between A and G represents a segment of a display which has 7 segments. And we are asked to do, what we're asked to do is to say, okay, these segments are scrambled, so we do not know which of the letters represent a specific segment, but we're asked to do the count of how many times we have the digits 1, 4, 7, 8 in the input. So essentially the second part of the input, the one separated with a pipe. Why this specific for numbers? Because they are special. Because they are, each one of them requires a specific number of segments. So if you see, for example, here, FG, you do not know which segment of these 7 possible segments is on or off. But if there are 2, there is only one number that can be represented with 2 segments, which is the number 1. And the same goes with the number 4, which requires 4 segments, 7, which requires 3, and 8, which requires 7. So they are unique. So let's start by parsing this input. This input always has 10 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then a pipe sign, this one. And then 4 strings, which represent the 4 numbers. So let's start by parsing the input. So we open the file, I already created the scaffolding as usual. And we can notice that we actually don't care about splitting the pipe and splitting the spaces. We can simply split by anything that is not a letter between these 7 possible letters. So I use a regular expression for that. I import re. Then I define the separator, and the separator is anything that is not one of those letters. So the separator is re.compile. I compile once because I need it all the time. Is essentially any repetition of something that is not between A and G. So here I define a regular expression that simply matches everything that is not one of those characters, repeated maybe more than once. And now I iterate over the lines. So I call it I go for the lines. So for line in fr, what do? I split. So I call it parts is equal to sep.split line. So we simply split the line based on this. How can you test a regular expression? If you don't know, there are many websites that giving a string, for example, this part of the input, just a random string, and a regular expression like the one that we provide here, will show you immediately what are the matches. So in this case, as expected, the matches are all the spaces between the strings. You can also choose the dialect because regular expression change a bit across languages, and here I chose Python. Okay, so now I have the parts, so I split the input of this specific line into all the parts that we care about. What I want to do is to take the first 10 and then the last 4. So I say that the digits, I don't know how the problem calls them. It's a very strange, weird problem. So we call it pattern. That's how the problem calls them. So pattern is the parts until the 10 part, and the digits, or however are they called, no, output value, so let's call it value, is equal to the parts between 10 and 14. let's try this immediately. So actually you can just print the pattern and print the value. So if I run this code now, I get a set of parts. So here I see, for example, this and this. Then there is error because it's trying to invoke part 1, but it's fine. So we get what we expected. Now, we want to accumulate them as part of the input of the problem. So let's call it input, the problem input. Initially is a list of size 0, and then here we simply put into this list the two values, which are the pattern and the value itself, so the part before and after the pipe. And now we invoke part 1 with the problem input. What does part 1 have to do? It simply has to count how many times in the input we have a sequence of segments which is representing 1, 4, 7, or 8, which are special because we just care about the length. So it doesn't matter what those letters are. What we care about is just the length of this whole string. So in part 1, we get the problem input. And we have now the total, so the return value, which is initially 0. Then for every value, how do we call them? Pattern and value in problem input. We want to count how many of the values have a length that is in a specific list that we are going to form. So we say that for value, for v in value, let's call them values because it's actually a list. So for the value in values, we want to check if this value, which is the string that is after the pipe sign, so one of them, has one specific length. So I say that if the length of the value is in is just a way to check if something is in a list, is in the 1, 4, 7, or 8 cases, so 2, because 1 has 2 segments, 4, 3, or 7. Those are the lengths of the segments that we have in 1, 2, 4, or 7. Is it what it was asking? 1, 4, 7, 8, in fact. So 1, 4, 3, and 7. 1, in fact, I was wrong. No, sorry, it's correct. It's 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 7. We increase ret by 1. It's a very banal solution. Trivial solution. We could also have something fancier like list comprehension, but why make it complex when we can make it simple? So I run again and get this value 383. Is it the solution? We are going to find out. Yes. So thank you for watching and see you later for part 2.